All right, minasan konnichiwa. Hello everyone. Welcome to the another Founder Institute Japan event. And my name is Erdinç. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Open4Co and the co-director of Founder Institute Japan Accelerator. So with the new year, we are continuing to make ecosystem building activities with a full speed as Founder Institute Japan. So we believe together with your collaboration, we can build a brighter future with innovation. So today is a truly special day that we gather some of the hottest startup founders and insiders from the robotics industry to share their insights and experiences. So we're thrilled to have them to introduce themselves and talk about the incredible robotic industry today. So as Founder Institute, we have a mission to make entrepreneurship cool again. So let's make some noise and then show your support to our mission and then give a big round of applause to our speakers. Woo! Woo! All right, energy, right? Okay, so let's get started. Okay, first of all, this is a live international hybrid event, and we want to make this as interactive as possible. So if you're joining from online, please say hi in the chat. By the way, a lot of people join from online too. And then say that where are you dialing from? Quite international crowd we have from online. How many people? 40 people. Okay, great. And then those joining in person, you can raise your hand and then introduce yourself in the Q&A session and ask your questions as well. So let's begin with the agenda. So we will introduce ourselves, the organizer and speakers, and then we will talk about robotics, Japanese robotics startup ecosystem. After that, we will dive into the Q&A and panel discussion. So a brief info about the organization. So the Founder Institute, based in Silicon Valley, is the world's largest pre-seed startup accelerator across 200 cities in 90 countries, with a global network of 25,000 mentors and 2,500 investors with 6,000 portfolio companies, which raised already more than $2 billion funding. So this is how FI positioned them in itself. So we work with the very early stage startup founders generally, but even growth stage companies also can join us. So if you have an idea, even with just an idea, you can still apply to us. So we are generally a feeder of ecosystem, other startups ecosystem as well. So because the biggest differentiation than the seed accelerators are the, as you can see, we are mostly focused on the earlier stage as possible. So this is how our program works. We put you in an intense 14 weeks program with around 200 assignments, and that will cover everything that you need to validate your idea and build a company. And I have to warn you, it's not easy. Some of our founders are here, I guess, and but no worries, we are here to support you by hands-on support. And in the current 2022 chapter, around 22 founders enrolled, and it has been 11 weeks already, and then 9 founders are surviving. So we accept more people and graduate less. This is how our startup ecosystem accelerator works. So half of the launch track and another half is the growth track currently. And one of our launch track startup in order to make fundraising engine round. And even though you're working somewhere and attending a university or something like that, you can still join us. It's fully online. We just get together in person in this community, and 20 hours per week. So after 6 p.m. and mostly in English, but if you speak Japanese only, I mean, with just a little bit in English, you can still join. So most of our mentors can also speak English and Japanese as well, 80% bilingual. And you can speak Japanese very well. We both are foreigners. So here is our portfolio. You know, you might know the Udemy here, which is our fraud story. Got an IPO recently in NASDAQ, and they also join us very early stage also. And then I hope that we can create the great startup stories like Udemy in Japan as well. So let's shout out our mentors. These are our product mentors, and all our mentors are active supporters of Japanese startup ecosystem, and most of have company building experiences in various stages and from diverse specialties backgrounds. All right. Here are broad local partners who support the entrepreneurship ecosystem here in Japan. And many benefits of collaborating with us, and if it is done by collaborating with the startup, if it is done by people who know it, because which we done literally thousands of times working with the startups in 200 cities, right? If you're looking for supporting startups in Japan, you can work with us. So we are happy to talk. And to our partners, we provide partner engagement programs, sponsorships, and access to our global network of other partners and startups as well. So it's all boils down to the supporting startups to making an impact while having a tangible business outcome for your company. So if you're a bigger corporation or wants to support startup, you can talk with us. So you and I, the local directors of FI Japan, we're also the fellow founders and as well. So we have a first-hand understanding and experience of many challenges of launching, running, and growing a company. So it's me. My name is Erdinç. I'm the founder and CEO of Open4Co, a partnership development platform and an online thriving community of 3,000 people in an organization from 20 different countries who seeks partnerships. So, but we don't just offer a community; we offer a solution to for partnership development. And I'm also the co-director of Founder Institute Japan Accelerator. And Yuli, stage is yours.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. I am Yuli. I have 3 hats. I am co-founder of Open4Co, as the same like adage, and then a co-director of the Founder Institute Japan as well. And I'm also doing a CEO of a global innovation consulting company, United States branch. My origin is from Myanmar, and I'm trilingual person. And then I have been in Japan like since 2030. I have been in India like 2 years, stays 3 years. And then I have my expertise is I think I have more than 10 years business development and partnership development. That's all about me. It's really excited to explore about the Japanese robotic ecosystem.
Thank you so much. So I forgot to mention I'm from Turkey. Yuli also from Myanmar. And okay, let's dive in. So forget to mention we launched our current batch, which is applications that are open for summer 2023 is open. And if you're a founder, if you would like to start a company, if you're looking to join the world's largest network of startups to launch, fund, and scale your company, please go to fi.co/apply/Japan to learn more. All right, so let's introduce our speakers. Let's give a round of applause to our speakers before they start. First speaker is going to be Michael Suida. Let's give it applause.
Wow. I can't really hear myself. There we go. No, there has to be like 10,000 here. I'm Mike Sudano, so I have to admit I'm not a hot founder. At least not of a company. I'm a salaryman. I work for Woven Planet, which is a subsidiary of Toyota. First off, I want to say that my opinions tonight do not necessarily reflect Toyota or Woven, but in the cases of really cool stuff, it probably does. I am originally from New York, moved to California. I was in the Bay Area for 10 years, and I moved out here about 2 years ago. In the Bay Area, I was doing bus and beer events, which were meetups for robotics individuals out there and companies. And then I replicated that out here with my buddy Marco, and we are doing currently Robotics Cross or Robotics X Tokyo events, which is part of the events tonight. And I have a background in mechanical engineering, robotics, operations, and I love video games and food. Next up, Marco.
Thank you. It's amazing to having you guys here. Marco, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. My name is Marco. I serve as a CTO of a company called Ascent Robotics. And as Mike also mentioned, I organized with him a meetup called Robotics X Tokyo. my background is in machine learning and AI engineering.
Same here. Yeah, thank you so much. Jad, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Jad. I'm co-founder and CEO of Integral AI. We're a company in San Francisco Bay Area in Tokyo. I'm Lebanese American, got my PhD in AI and spent close to a decade at Google. And now I'm very excited about this new company.
Fantastic. Oh my God. So let's get started. Okay. So let's get started our panel discussion right now. All right. The first question that we have is, okay, by the way, during the panel discussion, if we have questions, we will open the Q&A very soon after rolling some questions, panel questions. After a couple minutes, I mean, let's say 15 minutes later, you can start raising your hands. And then by doing this part, you can still think about your questions as well. So what are the key trends in robotics technology and how are they likely to evolve in the coming years? Who wants to go first?
Default. So let's see, key trends in robotics. So just like, you know, vehicles, there's a little bit of a sobering up for autonomous cars lately. But robots are getting a little bit more autonomous than they were before. One big trend is also that I think hardware prices are coming down. 3D printing is still kind of on its way up, so it's easier for companies and startups specifically to get into the industry pretty quickly and easily. But definitely, I think a big thing is autonomy with better sensors and you know, some big conferences recently which introduced some really good breakthroughs in AI. I think that autonomous robots are really starting to grow rather than, you know, teleoperated or things like that, although there is a place for that.
I would like to add that another trend is collaborative robots, especially for robotic arms. Most of the industrial robots have to be fenced off and they cannot work with humans collaboratively, but there is a movement with collaborative robots that are safe to work with humans. And in general, that's a theme that we want robots to be easy to work with and adaptable, basically.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I think the key trend happening now and it's going to continue to happen in the next few years is moving robotics from structured environments where the environment itself is highly controlled, predictable, to wild, unstructured environments. So it can handle all the different variations. And these environments could be collaborative with a human, could be autonomous in driving, or it could be, for example, a chef, right? So this trend is primarily driven by the recent developments in AI, and we call it, in our case, common sense. So AI models that have an understanding of the physical world and are able to make sense of the wild, unstructured environments that they interact. That's the key trend for us.
Sounds very exciting.
Yeah, I think AI is also like we are seeing nowadays like crazily, such as like ChatGPT, something like that.
Okay.
Like I never seen like as an end user to be able to utilize it, the AI power more than ever. Like I think we are going to see like power of that development of the AI and the robotics like we never seen before. I'm really hopeful and excited about it. Yeah, I think for warming up reasons, in the people are also joining from the online as well. So feel free to put your questions in the chat. We will prioritize your questions, and then the members who is joining from the physically, we will give you a chance to ask a question. For warming up reasons, I have one question that which countries are like leading in the robotics, like in general, because we like to go like over first. Yeah.
So leading countries in robotic adoption are China, Japan, Germany, South Korea, and the US.
Mm,
I'm not sure what is the exact order, but basically those are the first five countries that are leading the robotic revolution.
I see. Is there
And-
anything that you guys want to add?
I guess it depends. I agree. Depends on your definition of leading. For us, what's interesting is like 3 blocks right now. So there's the East Asia block, primarily in Japan. It's always surprising to me to learn that most people don't know that 50% of the world's industrial robots are built in Japan. So Japan
Wow.
alone is bigger or same as the rest of the world combined. So definitely East Asia block led by Japan. They're actually mostly used in China, but they're built in Japan.
I see.
The other interesting block goes all the way from Switzerland to Sweden. So there's Switzerland, Germany, Denmark. They're the leaders in collaborative robots, right? And then Sweden. So there's like ABB and so on. And the third block is, of course, North America, primarily West Coast, East Coast. So the block from New York to Boston and California from California to Washington.
Is that users or manufacturers in the US?
I'm talking about ecosystem, not users.
I see, okay.
Users are going to be like all over the
Yeah.
place, especially
Yeah.
Midwest and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Got it. I actually was, I don't know if my mic is on.
You need to a little.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. I think it's cut down. You want to share? Okay, we'll share a mic. I actually wanted to quickly go back to what you said about sort of AI leading and AI being introduced in sort of commercial applications. So currently we see things like Midjourney and the other sort of image generating things online. And they are incredibly impressive. And then you have things like Alexa and Siri, things like that. But we haven't, as far as I know, seen that implemented in a mechanical device to actually affect the world effectively. It's been more of these two separate things where there's really good manufacturing and mechanical things to do precise movements and cobots and things like this, and very intelligent, non-effective items, mechanically effective. But I can't really think of an example where those two have been joined together. Yes, please.
I mean, that's what we're doing. So
Okay. It's an advertisement.
Feel free to shout out your own companies, by the way. It's completely fine.
There is an existing line of research, primarily at Google at this point, that is trying to combine large language models with robotics. And they're basically using the same technology that powers ChatGPT and DALI to train robots to understand the world better and interact with humans in a more natural way. So you can say to the robot, "Oh, robot, please bring me the can from that table." And the robot would, quote unquote, understand what it needs to do.
It's quite insightful, like especially shocking me. This 50% is like in Japan, like Jet mentioned. I didn't know that. Like, I mean, Japan is leading the robotic things. I didn't know that much. Thank you so much for sharing the insight. Okay, shall we a little bit go like next one is like we also like to know the key challenge in the robotic industry and how they be.
Okay.
I mean overall, not Japan specific. Yeah.
I'm just going to use yours. I'm cursed tonight.
Toshiwaru.
So one of the big challenges that I've seen in working in robotics over the past however many years is power storage, power density for things like, batteries. We have really powerful, awesome GPUs, but when you use them for a desktop and overclock them and, play video games, they have to be like water cooled or something like this. When they're on a robot, you have to put like a big honking wheelchair battery or something like that. And it's not necessarily effective for keeping a robot lightweight and safe. So advances in high power density would be very useful for robotics.
Marcus or Chad?
if you don't want to add, it's so fine. Like if you want to add, please feel free to add.
For me, the biggest challenge is that it's actually physical. It's not like pure software. So you have to deploy, which means very long sales cycles, which means a lot of cost, initial cost, upfront cost. It means it can break and then you need to fix it, so on and so on. And I feel like another way of looking at it is saying the challenge is that we don't have common sense AI. Right.
I see.
Not yet.
Thank you. Marco, you want to add anything?
Well, as Jad mentioned in one of the previous questions and answers, the big challenge is to enable robots to work in unstructured environment, because right now they mostly operate in like controlled environments, and when you put them in the real world with a lot of unpredictable situations, everything goes wrong, right? So the challenge is how to make them work in unstructured environments.
I have a follow-up question about it. Like, how about the perspective of the talent? Like about the in challenge, it is not like, for example, for developing the normal software, so we can go literally in anywhere like that. About the robot, there must be a certain country that you can easily find. Like, is there any like talent can be counted as one of the challenges for the like the developing the like, for example, study as a robotic startup, something like that too? How do you think? It's complicated question. Talent. Sorry.
Yeah, so you mean like nurturing talent to come up and be able to work in robotics?
Yeah.
So this is a very big challenge currently, especially women and minorities in STEM and robotics. There aren't enough women and minorities in the industry. And we are seeing sort of negative results of this already, not to turn it negative. But for example, if we have things, not necessarily robotics, but things like facial recognition systems and, skin tone recognition, if these models aren't trained on a diverse group of people, they're not going to work for a diverse group of people. So I think there's currently a lack of talent and mentoring in the industry, specifically for women and underserved groups. Other sectors do tend to mentor in general, like in Silicon Valley, there are startup groups and other foundations that are mentoring in robotics and spreading it. And it's getting there, but from my perspective, I think I've seen only or mainly software mentoring and software talent, and not as much focus on hardware, at least outside of Japan.
I see. Yeah, nice. Thank you. Edith, you have any follow-up question? We started to have a question in the chat. We will come to your questions very soon. Please keep posting in the chat. And then for the physical audience, we will also come to you soon. So shall we go a little bit?
Yeah, I always wonder that who are the major players in Japan in the robotics industry?
Again, it depends on how you define major player. Of course, Fanuc is the biggest market share. But I really like, again, shout out to our partner, Denso. I think they have the most innovative robots. It's just really ahead of everyone else in the world in terms of the quality, in terms of the features, the specs, and so on. Yeah.
Thank you. Marco and Michael, do you have different opinions?
Well, as we already mentioned, one top 3 or 4 manufacturers of robotic systems are in Japan. So Fanuc, Denso, Yaskawa, Kawasaki, Mitsubishi, they all make world-class robots. In terms of startups, some of the notable names are Mujin, Rapid Robotics, Telexistence, Gitai, Ascent Robotics. And then we have Woven Planet. Even Sony does robotics, so there is actually a lot of robotics players here in Japan. But robotics is a broad field, and it spans like home robots, robots for elderly care, mobile robots, robot arms. So it's a very broad field.
Okay.
Why Japan lead in the robotics industry?
It's a good question.
So first industrial robot in the world was installed in Japan. Actually, it was in 1960s, I think. And since then, Japan was a leader in automation. And I think that the creation of industrial robots coincided with the boom of Japanese industry after the Second World War. And also Japan has the lean mindset, right? Lean manufacturing, which again goes well with the automation and robotics. So it was like a positive cycle.
I see. I'd like to hear from Mike and Jet as well.
So Japan, as you may know, has a really, really strong manufacturing history. Very precise, very good, great output, great work ethic. What is not necessarily good in Japan is software. And I don't know if you listened to the Disrupting Japan podcast, but Tim Romero, who I believe his title is head of startups for Google Japan. He just did their 200th episode. It was fantastic. And people, especially, foreigners come to Japan and wonder, why is the software so bad? No offense. Why doesn't this website work? Why does it look like it was made in the 1980s? Why do they hate me as a user? And Tim goes through all of this, and it's fantastic. But I think Japan has excelled in robotics kind of despite that over the years. There were very specific choices made that he goes into on the podcast where the software is relatively insular and made specifically for that hardware, but it was done really well. Now, as we're getting more of sort of like marketplaces of software and software that's hardware agnostic, it's a little bit trickier, and Japan is lagging behind still on that. But I think through manufacturing and having that sort of manufacturing drive, it's really helped Japan to excel in robotics.
Right.
Thank you.
I agree with both answers so far. They're quite good. But I want to say, like, these things are usually over-determined. So success usually is highly over-determined. So you can't really isolate one reason. There's like, I mean, I've talked about this for a long time, like why Silicon Valley is great at software, why Japan is amazing in robotics. You can talk about Shinto, you can talk about like ancient craftsmanship, you can talk about that it's being an island country. There's so many reasons. Actually, the more interesting questions is like why some other developed countries did not develop similar robotics expertise, and primarily America. Like why is the States so bad in robotics? And the reason for that is that they mostly outsourced manufacturing to China, to Mexico, so they didn't really need basically to develop that expertise internally. But if you look at similar industrialized countries like Germany, they do have a thriving robotics ecosystem.
Nice. Yeah, we have a couple questions is coming up as a final. Like before taking out the questions, I like to ask the final questions because as a founder institute, we also we started our first chapter like as our local leader we are performing currently. We also like to see the robotic startup in our chapter as well. So we also met a lot of founders is coming from the Silicon Valley, Canada, moving to the Japan, study a like kind of robotic startup. Like we met quite a lot nowadays. So I think something is good, trendy is going on. Like if somebody want to start in Japan, a startup like robotic, how would you recommend to them? Like I like to hear your opinion.
One of them is Jet, right? So
Jet,
would you like
and
to
then the
share
Mark
your
is
story?
also a startup founder as well. So we'd like to hear your opinion to the startup founder that who's going to start.
Yeah, generally, I don't recommend anyone to start a startup unless they have to. Like if there's no other choice, emotionally speaking, then you do it. Because once you do it, it's going to be tough, it's going to be challenging, and it's going to really exhaust you to the end.
I agree.
Yeah, as for me, it was a very clear choice. I wanted to, take AI to the next level. It's required robotics to have the maximal impact. And Japan is the leader in robotics. So if I wanted to be serious about it, I have to go all in, and that's what I did. Yeah.
This is why I lost my hairs.
The same.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I can add something about it. So I was involved in 2 startups in Silicon Valley, both
Okay.
of which were, very up and down, some better than others. Which is why my hair is short and going that way, but it's still there because I decided to get out of startup and go into industry.
I see.
But I want to say that Japan, from about, I don't know, the early 2010s, maybe even earlier, is starting to be a good place for Japanese startups. Whereas before then, startups were really kind of looked down upon.
Yeah.
If you weren't a salaryman or woman, and you weren't in the industry, you weren't working late, you weren't going to, work in a suit, you were generally looked as more of a slacker. And the same thing in general in Japan for software developers back in the 70s and 80s. But it has become better, as evidenced by some great, founders here. So
I see.
I would recommend it now. I don't know if it would be the first place to come though, necessarily.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it has been 35 minutes. So we like to start to prioritize the questions from the audience because this event is about all of for you, not just talking our perspective and questions only. So we already have so many questions in the chat already. Thank you guys. I'd like to start to warm me up with the first question, and here is how does the robotics tech in Japan differ from the rest of the world?
It
But
doesn't.
David Fu.
It's by day before, like, I mean,
Yeah, I would say that it doesn't. There's nothing specific to technology in Japan that's different than technology in Germany or China or US. But maybe you have a different opinion.
how about from the audience? Is there any questions? And then if you have a question, please raise your hand. And then if the question run out, we will also keep asking the panel discussion as well.
There are many
Okay,
questions from
okay,
the
thank you.
online, but one by one, we should do that.
Thank you so much to come today. I'm a student at university in Japan, and I'm also doing internship in Japanese robotic company. We actually making this kind of assistant robot AI, which has face recognition technology. But I'm doing business side of a project, and I usually question why do we actually need robot? Like this human interaction thing sometimes seems for me not really relevant right now. So I wanted to ask your opinion about this exactly field, about robots for humans, where this industry is going, and if there is any perspective, and do we actually need robots in our daily life?
So is that Plen?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with the company from a while back, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're based in Osaka, is that correct? Or
Yeah,
Kyoto? Osaka?
like business team in Tokyo,
Okay.
and all engineers are in Osaka.
Nice. Good to see you. So robotics in everyday life and interaction. So Japan has sort of been touting this idea of healthcare robots for a long time. The image that you see is, the bear robot picking up someone and putting them to bed. Another great recent post, I will try and link to it, and I forget the gentleman's name who was researching, but it's sort of how, I think he's coming out with a book called Robots Won't Save Japan, as a response to a book, Robots Will Save Japan. So please look that up. It goes into exactly how he did studies, and there was more work introduced to the workers in these care facilities than without the robots, and less human interaction. So that was a negative side of things. There are positive reasons for using robots, of course: dull, dirty, dangerous. So if something is too fast for a human to do, if there's a throughput that they can't reach, or if there's something super dangerous, they can't go into a mine, for example, that would be a use case. But I would recommend against, despite being someone who loves robotics, recommend against looking for things that don't need robots. Keep robots out of where they don't necessarily need to be, to preserve that human connection.
Okay. Yeah. Any other comments from you guys?
Yeah, I don't like the word need. I think we want robots because we want abundance. We want more power. We want to do things more. We just want more for the world, right? So if robots are like harvesting, shipping, building stuff, cooking, cleaning, why not? Like, I think that's the world that would be the kind of world I want to live in. And I think in a certain sense, when when someone is doing a job that they don't enjoy, like let's say flipping burgers in a McDonald's restaurant, that's a human behaving like a robot. And I think that's not a good thing to have.
So I would maybe slightly disagree. I would say that most people don't really want robots for the sake of robots. They just have some problem that needs to be solved. And if the robot is the best way to solve it, then they'll buy the robot. But if it's not the robot, then they will buy some other solution, right? So Toyota or whatever, they're not buying robots because they're huge fan of Fanuc robots, but because robots are the solution to their manufacturing problems, right? So for the robot to be commercially successful, it has to solve a big problem, big and valuable problem for somebody.
Yeah, as I know, like for now, it's quite hard robots to do something instead of humans. Like it's hard for development and hard, like difficult technology. So yeah, that was I was thinking. Like maybe for now, robots are kind of hard to implement in our daily life. But yeah, very thank you for your answers.
I want to comment on that a little bit and disagree with the disagreement. There's dogs and people still love Aibo, right? There's something about human curiosity that we want to explore the unknown and try different things. So for example, ChatGPT, right? You mentioned it earlier. People are fascinated with it. They spend hours and hours and hours talking to it. And there's something about that where we don't need to do everything in order to for a need, but for a want. And maybe not everybody has a want, but we're a diverse society, and if enough people want it, that's good enough, I think.
I mean, having a different opinions, but both sides sounds make sense to me. I don't know that too much debate about the robotics. So we like to we have a 20 minutes remain. So we like to prioritize the other question as well. And then we will pick up, I highly recommend you to ask a generic question. For the specific question, speakers are going to be in the networking session. You can ask some more specific questions because we also like to educate to the audience as much as possible. I will come to you next. I'm going to be prioritize all the online question first. The Roger is asking that, hi, assuming industrial robots be the most popular robotic types outside of the China, which other countries are high consumers of robotic or upcoming? It's a little bit specific though. You can.
So if I understand the question correctly, they ask what countries are consuming robots the most, and
in terms of industrial robotics.
Industrial robot.
We touched upon that before, and it's basically Japan, China, South Korea, Germany, and the US. Those are the 5 leading countries in the industrial robotics adoption.
I see. So I'm going to be give a audience of the for the physical.
Thank you. I'm not sure if somebody asked it before because I was late. So, well, most of the robots, especially of the startups I see in Japan, are mostly like wheeled robots or mobile robots. I see mostly. Maybe there are some industrial robotic arms, I believe. But what kind of scope do you see for like aerial robots, like drones or something, like not like controlling from the controller, like autonomous drones, something? Yeah.
So admittedly, I don't know much about drones, but what I do know is that when I'm in the subway, I see a lot of signs that say no drone area. I believe this has changed recently, and you're able now to use drones where they're not in direct sight, but I'm not 100% sure. So I know that there were heavy restrictions on this, and if they are changing, it'll probably spur development on drones and autonomous aerial vehicles. Yes.
So I think there's a bunch of aerial robotic startups in Japan. At least one massively successful one is called Synspective. So they are even going to like launching satellites and taking images of the ground and analyzing that using AI. I was actually an advisor for them at some point. There is at least one drone startup that's, I forgot the name, that's done for monitoring agricultural yields. But with robotics, it's a very stealth industry. So you'll have a lot of, some of the most impressive startups I know in US or in Japan in robotics are stealth mode. There's a lot of reasons for that because you have physical hardware, there's a long development cycle and so on.
Thank you so much for the question. There is very interesting question online. I would like to deliver you guys, which is a little bit controversial. Let me explain. So, how would you define the military use of robotics? Could you deny or decline any military, I have to do that, related offer to your business, to your technology, or finance and research, or anything related? Would you accept that kind?
I'm going to go first. And actually, I'd refer this person and everybody here to go back to our previous session that we did here, because we spoke with Robotics X Tokyo about this subject at length. Personally, I'm very much against militarization of robots. I think it sort of lowers the bar of getting into conflicts and will probably lead to more conflicts. But we do go into depth on this. And I do not have my own venture. And I don't believe Toyota is or will ever be involved in that sort of business. Right. But personally, I would reject it outright. But
I don't think you'll have a choice. So you're a US citizen, right? So the government can impose this thing where you have to, what they did like in COVID or World War II. And military robotics is a reality right now. So one of our hosts is from Turkey. Turkey is one of the excellent providers of robotic warfare. They're being used in Ukraine all the time right now. Another great provider is Iran. And so you got drones fighting drones in Ukraine right now. It's a reality, whether we want to admit it or not, unfortunately. So in our case, our philosophy is very simple. If we were forced to be in a situation where we have to contribute to a military effort, we will prefer to be on the defensive side.
Marcus, any comment on that?
I'm not speaking again for Ascent Robotics, but my personal opinion is that it's a reality. Robots will be used for military purposes, and they're already being used for that. So there is no reason to ignore it.
Hi, I wanted to ask the personal opinion of you guys. So what is really a groundbreaking technology to make the robot into the next stage, which is set to be a reinforcement learning, but in a couple of years it's getting close and close, but it never go over the similar reality gap. And like, I'm wondering, what is really the last piece that's bring the robot to the next level?
I have a strong opinion here. I think reinforcement learning is a dead end. I've always thought it's a dead end. I think the more interesting stuff is going on in self-supervised learning. So models similar to like GPT. The kind of technology we're developing at Integral is common sense AI, and that is doing multimodal prediction. So you're able to learn from lots of data, from YouTube data, from language on the internet, from actions and so on, and share them among a certain common sense. So you're able to bootstrap learning very efficiently. I think RL is a mistake, just like behavioralism was in psychology, and it does have its uses in certain cases when you can simulate, but in the physical world, it's very data inefficient. Actions have consequences, so you don't want the robot to explore unless you can really control the range of exploration. These are some of the challenges. So you would want something more where the human is being in control rather than the robot is figuring it out. So I believe in like learning from how human are doing things, as like imitation learning or learning from all the different YouTube content out there. And I made this bet that RL will die like 5 years ago, and everyone was saying, because it had won like a bunch of competitions, and so far the trend has been moving away from RL. So far I'm winning.
I see.
I wouldn't be so quick to dismiss RL as a dead end, but I guess it's a personal preference and opinion.
I just to add a little bit in terms of technologies that we need to get robots, let's say in the home, would be better kind of UX studies and social interaction studies and human machine interaction, human computer interaction, I think is a necessity for taking robots out of industrial environments and getting them to act correctly around people.
So basically more thinking more human centric, more than just technology driven.
Yeah.
And also introduce more like a, not training on the simulator, but more like a demonstrated data or like expert data that's more, you don't have to transfer, then make more sense. Okay, thanks.
Every single application of AI and robotics right now uses imitation learning.
Yeah.
There's not a single reinforcement learning that I've seen that was successful. So yeah, it's a fantasy.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for the question, by the way. So we have 10 minutes remaining, and we would like to prioritize both online and then offline as well. One by one, we are going. And another one from the online question is, this is like okay, I have to give you one context before. So most of the question, when it comes to robotics and AI, three main questions mostly come in, which is about the ethical implications and the industrial applications and the job applications. So this question is, I'm so sure that you hear a lot, a little bit ethical, but mostly job related. And here's the question. I just wondering, will robots, and AI going to steal our jobs in the future? This is the question. I know, but I just want to hear your opinions, maybe short, on that.
Yes.
All right. So short and precise. Okay. What do you think?
Everything that humans can do, robots will be able to do at some point in the future. So maybe it's not going to be next year, maybe it's not going to be 20 years, but at some point we will be able to automate almost everything.
Okay. Jen, Michael?
I agree. If I want to like silver line this, I would say something like jobs will melt into play. So job will become more and more at a higher level, and eventually it will be like your job is to play. That would be kind of my high level.
Michael?
Yeah, this is a super complicated and long tail topic, but
yeah.
Generally, I think now it's seen that robotics, it depends on the time scale, but robotics in the short term will displace people's jobs. They will hopefully be retrained by conscientious employers, and they will go into higher skilled jobs. So in the short term, yes. In the long term, maybe not as much, but I do have to agree that humans will probably be put out by robotic skills. But then I want to harken back to Jurassic Park and just say that hopefully the scientists will ask if they should, not if they could. So yeah, I'd say I have to agree, but there are definitely nuances to. It's a big topic.
Maybe a figurative question could be a follow-up. Are we going to need a job anyway?
Yeah, that's my point precisely.
Yeah.
Basically, robots are going to take all our jobs that are boring, and that's a very good thing. And then we have to figure out how to organize ourselves as a society. There's lots of proposals there, basic income, land value tax, a lot of research is going on this. I think jobs will be looked at as an artifact. We will look back at people having to work to survive, like we look at slavery right now, right? We don't need slavery. We will look the same way on jobs that are not for fun.
I believe it's all about adaptive to the current situation. I mean, ChatGPT sounds like crazies that go to take away all contact writing. We don't need to write contact anymore. But in all the other side of the real life uses, it is helping us to be more productive. We don't need to write the boring text and read a lot of long block. Like it's helping us to be more productive. I am very positive about the AI related future.
Yeah, I mean, I recently read that the same thing was said about books. When books came out, they were afraid that storytelling between humans was going to die out. And then when, movies came out, books might die. This has been a trend throughout history. But people derive a lot of self-worth and, intention in their lives from work, be it sometimes manual labor, sometimes repetitious and boring tasks. So I think it highly depends on the individual, whether they would have to work or want to give up their job. Again, really nuanced topic, but a lot of potential there. So we'll see.
Okay, we have a 7-minute left, so we are going to be take a final questions from you, and then our speaker. Okay, 2 questions. Like please, a quick question and quick answer will be appreciated because we also said something to wrap up. So please go on.
Hi, my name is Sama. I'm a robotic systems engineer and a startup here. I wanted to ask specifically if what potential challenges do you see in establishing a robotic startup in Japan, also considering the funding aspect?
As a foreigner starting a company in Japan, you'll have to overcome certain biases and cultural norms, I would say. In terms of funding, there is abundant funding in Japan. It's definitely not on the same level as in US, but it is here. And also talent might be not as readily available as in US. So that is an issue to consider too.
I agree with you. There's 10,000 startups in Japan. So there's definitely room
Is
there.
robotic?
No, just general startups, 10,000. Mostly in Shibuya, by the way. So so you can do it. But I have found that even investor terms from Japanese VCs tend to be very adversarial compared to the Bay Area. So they offer, I think, not as good terms, and it can be done. So I'm not saying don't do it, but I would discourage you unless you really, really, really feel like this is your, mission.
Founder Institute is here. Our half of the founder is a foreigner. So we support with the ecosystem. We are planning to bring more and more industry-specific focus mentor as well. So I highly recommend you to check it out, Founder Institute, Japan. Thank you. So final question.
Hey guys, thanks a lot. It's been a really interesting session. My question is pretty short and pretty simple, I guess. I think everyone sort of has a very clear vision about how robotics will play out in the future. And I think all you sort of believe that it's going to obviously be quite prominent in terms of taking people's jobs. And I thought the comment about, becoming more like play is really quite interesting. And I've read a few sort of books about that as well. So my question is, personally or professionally, like what are your guys' favorite sci-fi movies and or books, in the sense of you could imagine that the future could actually be like that in 10, 20, 30 years?
Yeah, I can talk about that for like 10 hours. I would say there are different types of people that are attracted to different sci-fi, and that tells you a lot about their personality. So there's like Star Wars people. They tend to distrust others. They tend to vote Republican in the US. Star Wars people, they tend to have an optimistic view of the future. I'm going for Star Trek. So yeah, let's build a replicator. Yeah, and explore the galaxy.
So contrary to everything I said before, I'm a huge fan of Metal Gear Solid, which is all about robots and warfare and giant robots, which of course, unfortunately, I can see happening. So shout out to Kojima Productions. If anybody's here from Kojima, come talk to me. And Metal Gear, that whole technology wing. Yep.
Dune Saga also deals with the issue of automation and AI, and highly recommend that. Dune.
Can I give also my recommendation? I mean, Ex Machina.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. Like it so much. Anyway.
Scary.
Your favorite too? Okay.
Tells me a lot. That tells me about how your brain works.
Thank you. Okay, let's wrap up. So our time almost finished. We have just 2 minutes. We have some announcements before finishing. Yuri, you wanna go?
So 2023 cohort is opening. Please check it out, fi.co.japan. Anything you have a question, please feel free to connect with me for the LinkedIn, ask me any question, and then please follow up on the LinkedIn as well for updating information. And then the next, can you go more? Oh no, more. There's something wrong. No, in the back. But anyway, it has an issue. We do also have a next event, which is finding a strategy partner in Japan. Like you can also join from the other country as well. We call the collaborate for good, pitch your startup and connect with a strategy partner in Japan. It's going to be in here, and then it's going to be a hybrid event. Hope to see you soon in the January 2nd as well. I also put the link in the chat, and you can, if you are following our social media, you will also see that one too. So yeah, that's all about us. For the online meet person, we will drop the link, the Meet networking room. We will be there, so we can make networking over there. But for the physical member, feel free to hang out with the speakers in the networking session. Thank you so much for the great questions and great audience. Hope to see you in the other upcoming event. Thank you so much.
Let's give a big applause to our speakers. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. It was amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much.
はい、ありがとうございました。こちらで、続いてのセッションに移ってまいります。この後はスポーツアナリストと FIFA ワールドカップカタール大会を語ろうというセッションを、お送りしてまいります。登壇者の方々、ぜひステージ前方の方に